Questions. Good morning, everyone. Let me start with a simple question. How many of you have ever felt incomplete without someone in your life? A friend, a partner, a boss's approval, your parents' validation, questions, or maybe even a stranger's like on social media. Be honest, just in your heart. You see, we live in a world that constantly tells us, you are not enough. Buy this and you'll be happy. Questions. Find this person and you'll be complete. Achieve this title and you'll be respected. But today, I want to gently challenge that belief because the truth is not harsh. Questions. The truth is actually very comforting. You don't need anyone to be whole. Let me tell you a small story. There was a young boy who carried a glass of water everywhere. One day, someone asked him questions. Why are you holding that glass so tightly? The boy said, because if I put it down, someone might take it and I'll be thirsty. So I asked him questions. What if your hand gets tired? He paused. That's what we do in relationships, in careers, in life. We hold people so tightly because we are afraid of being thirsty emotionally. But sometimes, questions. The problem is not that people leave. The problem is that we never learned how to refill our own glass. Let me say that again slowly. We never learned how to refill our own glass. Questions. Now don't misunderstand me. I am not saying push everyone away. I am not saying become cold-hearted. I am saying something deeper. You don't need people to complete you. Questions. You need people to complement you. There is a big difference. When you think someone completes you, you become dependent. When you know you are complete, you become grateful. Questions. And gratitude builds healthy relationships. Dependency builds fear. Let's talk about expectations. Questions. Expectations are like invisible contracts we sign in our head, but we never show them to the other person. I will be nice to you, so you must always understand me. I will support you. Questions. So you must never disappoint me. I will love you, so you must never change. And when they break this invisible contract, we feel hurt. But whose fault is it? Let me share another example. Questions. Have you ever gone to a shop and expected a pen, but the shop only sells pencils? Would you get angry at the shop? No, you would say, oh, this shop sells pencils. But with people, questions, we do the opposite. We go to a pencil shop and demand a pen. Then we say, people are bad. No, people are just being who they are. Questions. When you don't need anyone to validate your worth, something magical happens. You stop begging for attention. You stop chasing approval. Questions. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You start showing up as you. Let me ask you something. Questions. When was the last time you sat alone without your phone, without music, without distractions, and just enjoyed your own company? For many people, that's terrifying. Questions. Because silence introduces you to yourself. But the strongest people in the world are not the ones surrounded by crowds. They are the ones who can sit alone and still feel full. Questions. Here's the irony of life. The moment you stop needing people, people start wanting to be around you. Why? Because confidence is attractive. Peace is magnetic. Self-respect is powerful. Questions. Let me tell you something very practical. If you depend on someone for happiness, you give them power over your emotional life. Questions. And most people don't even know how to manage their own emotions. How will they manage yours? That doesn't mean you don't love. That doesn't mean you don't care. Questions. It means you love without losing yourself. Imagine two candles. If one candle goes off, does the other candle lose its flame? No, it still burns. But when both candles are lit, questions, the room becomes brighter. That's how relationships should be. Two complete individuals. Not two half people trying to become one. Let's talk about rejection. Questions. Rejection hurts the most when your identity is attached to someone else's acceptance. If they like me, I'm valuable. If they leave me, I'm worthless. Questions. but your worth was never issued by them in the first place. Your worth is inherent. It came with your birth certificate. Here's a powerful truth. People will come. People will go. Questions. Some will stay longer. Some will teach lessons. But you are the only person who will be with you from your first breath to your last. So shouldn't you learn to be your own best friend? Questions. Talk to yourself kindly. Encourage yourself. Forgive yourself. Because the way you treat yourself teaches others how to treat you. Let me leave you with this thought. Questions. Loneliness is not the absence of people. Loneliness is the absence of connection with yourself. When you find that connection, you can walk into any room alone and still feel at home. So remember, questions. You don't need anyone to be whole. You don't need anyone to be worthy. You don't need anyone to be enough. You are already enough. People are not your oxygen. They are your fragrance. Questions. You can breathe without them. But life smells better when they are around. Thank you. Stay strong. Stay kind. And most importantly, stay true to yourself. Questions. Let me start with something very simple. Have you ever lost your phone for 5 minutes and felt like you lost a part of your soul? You start checking your pockets, your bag, the table, the bed. Questions. Even places where you know you never kept it. Your heartbeat increases. Your mind starts creating worst case scenarios. And then when you finally find it, what do you feel? Relief, not happiness. Questions. Relief, because for those 5 minutes you felt incomplete. Now think about this. What if we treat people the same way? We walk through life holding our emotional phone in someone else's pocket. Questions. A friend, a partner, a mentor, a family member, and when they don't reply, don't call, don't show up, or don't understand us, we feel like we lost ourselves. But here is the gentle truth. Questions. You were born whole. You didn't come into this world as a half person waiting for another half to arrive. When a child is learning to walk, they fall. A lot. Questions. They don't look at their parents and say, "You walk for me." They stand up again, they wobble, they fall. They try, and one day they walk. That child doesn't say, questions. I can only walk if someone holds my hand forever. They learn balance. Life works the same way. People can hold your hand for a while, but balance is something you have to learn on your own. Questions. Let me give you a daily life example. Imagine you go to a cafe alone. You order a coffee and sit at a table. At first, you might feel uncomfortable. You look around. You pretend to check your phone. Questions. You wonder what people are thinking. But after a few minutes, something shifts. You start noticing the smell of coffee, the sound of cups clinking, the soft music in the background. Questions. The world doesn't collapse just because you're sitting alone. In that moment, you realize something powerful. You don't disappear when no one is sitting across from you. The problem is questions. From a very young age, we are taught a dangerous sentence. Find someone who completes you. It sounds romantic, but what it really teaches is this. Questions. You are incomplete on your own. And when you believe that, you start negotiating your self-respect. You laugh at jokes that hurt you. You stay in places where you are not valued. Questions. You shrink your dreams so someone else feels comfortable. All because you are afraid of being alone. But being alone and being lonely are not the same thing. Questions. Lonely is when you are in a room full of people and still feel invisible. Alone is when you are by yourself and still feel peaceful. Let me ask you something honest. Questions. Have you ever stayed in a conversation you didn't enjoy just because you didn't want to walk away alone? Have you ever held on to a relationship that drained you? Questions. Just because you were scared of empty space. That empty space is not your enemy. That empty space is where you meet yourself. Think of your life like a house. If the house has no foundation, questions, you keep inviting people to hold the walls. And when they leave, everything collapses. But when the foundation is strong, people can come and go. the house still stands. You are that foundation. Questions. Another simple example. When you are hungry, you don't wait for someone else to eat so that you can feel full. You eat your own food. When you are tired, questions. You don't ask someone else to sleep for you. You rest. So why, when it comes to happiness, do we say, someone else has to give this to me? Happiness is not a delivery item. It is a skill. Questions. And like every skill, it starts with practice. Practice being kind to yourself when you fail. Practice encouraging yourself when no one claps. Questions. Practice showing up for your own dreams when others don't understand them. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you realize, I can handle my own life. You stop chasing. Questions. You stop proving. You stop performing. You start choosing. You choose who gets access to your time. You choose who gets access to your energy. You choose who gets a seat in your life. Questions. Because when you know you are complete, you don't beg for a place at someone else's table. You build your own table. And here is the most beautiful part. Questions. When you stop needing people to fill a void inside you, you start inviting them to share your fullness instead. Relationships become lighter. Conversations become real. Love becomes free. Questions, not desperate. So the next time you feel like you are missing something because someone is not in your life, pause for a moment. Look at your own breath. Look at your own heartbeat. Questions. Look at your own strength that has carried you through every hard day you've ever survived. You are not a half story waiting for a character to arrive. You are a whole book. Questions. People don't come to complete your chapters. They come to read them, share them, and sometimes write a few pages with you. But the story was always yours, and it always will be. Questions. Let me start with a simple picture from daily life. Think about a cup of tea. If the cup is empty, you keep pouring and pouring and pouring. But no matter how much you pour, questions, if the cup has a crack at the bottom, it will never stay full. You will blame the tea. You will blame the kettle. You might even blame the person who served it. But the real issue was never the tea. Questions. The cup itself was broken. Now think about relationships like that. When you expect someone to complete you, you are asking them to fix something inside you that only you can heal. Questions. And no matter how kind, loving, or supportive they are, sooner or later, both of you will feel tired. Let me give you another everyday example. Questions. Imagine you are walking on the road with a heavy bag on your back. A friend comes and helps you carry it for a while. It feels lighter. You feel grateful. Questions. But if you make them carry it for the rest of your life, what happens? They get exhausted. You become dependent. Help is beautiful. Support is powerful. But responsibility for your own life is yours. Questions. When people compliment you, they add color to your life. When you expect them to complete you, you turn them into a crutch. And a crutch is not meant to be leaned on forever. Questions. Let's talk about how this shows up in daily life. Have you ever noticed how some people change their personality depending on who they are with? With one group, they laugh loudly. With another, questions. They stay quiet. With one person, they act confident. With another, they shrink. Why does that happen? Because they are trying to become what they think the other person wants, not who they really are. Questions. That is what happens when you believe someone else is responsible for your wholeness. But when you know you are already complete, something shifts. You don't walk into a room thinking, questions, will they like me? You walk in thinking, do I feel comfortable being myself here? That's a powerful difference. Let me give you a simple, relatable example. Questions. Think about your favorite food. Maybe it's pizza. Pizza is great on its own. Even plain cheese pizza can make you happy. But when you add toppings, olives, mushrooms, extra cheese, questions, it becomes even better. Now imagine saying, this pizza is worthless without toppings. That would sound strange, right? That's how life is. You are the pizza. People are the toppings. Questions. They enhance the experience, they don't give it value. Another daily life moment. When you buy a new phone, you might add a cover, a screen guard, maybe a pop grip. These things protect the phone. Questions. They make it look nice. They make it more comfortable to use. But even without them, the phone still works. You don't go back to the shop and say, questions. This phone is useless because it doesn't have a cover. But in the same way, your life works even before people add their presence to it. They are there to make it richer, not to make it exist. Questions. Let's talk about love for a moment. Real love doesn't say, I can't live without you. Real love says, my life is beautiful and I want to share it with you. One comes from fear. Questions. The other comes from fullness. When two people who feel incomplete come together, they don't build a relationship, they build a transaction. Questions. I'll make you feel valued if you make me feel secure. I'll stay with you if you never disappoint me. And the moment one person fails, the whole thing starts shaking. Questions. But when two complete people come together, something beautiful happens. They don't cling, they don't control, they don't compete, they grow. Let me give you a small, everyday example. Questions. Have you ever tried to walk while holding someone very tightly? Your steps become awkward. You might just even trip. But when you walk side by side, not holding too tight, not too far. Questions. Just close enough, both of you can walk freely. That's what complementing looks like. Not pulling, not pushing, just walking together. Here's another moment from daily life. Think about a mirror. Questions. A mirror doesn't change your face, it reflects it. The best people in your life don't change who you are. They reflect who you are. They bring out your courage. They highlight your kindness. Questions. They remind you of your strength. They don't replace your identity. They reveal it. And the beautiful part is, when you stop expecting people to fill your emptiness. Questions. You start attracting people who enjoy your presence, not your need. You don't become a burden, you become a blessing. Questions. Because no one wants to feel like they are responsible for someone else's entire happiness. That's a heavy weight to carry. Questions. But everyone loves to feel like they add joy to someone's already good life. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, I need this person to be okay, pause. Take a deep breath. Questions. Remind yourself, I am okay. And this person is a beautiful addition to my journey, not the destination itself. When you live like that, relationships become lighter. Smiles become genuine. Questions. Goodbyes become less bitter. People come into your life not as saviors, but as companions. And you walk forward not leaning on them to stand. Questions. But holding their hand simply because the road feels nicer when shared. That is the power of being complete and letting others complement your life, not complete it. Questions. Let me start with something very simple from everyday life. Have you ever ordered food at a restaurant and while waiting, you already imagined how it will taste? You picture the smell, the flavor. Questions. The perfect presentation. And then the plate arrives, the food is good, it's not bad at all. But somehow you feel a little let down. Why? Not because the food failed, questions, but because your imagination overpromised something reality never agreed to deliver. That is exactly how expectations work in our lives. Most disappointments don't come from what people do. Questions. They come from what we thought people would do. Let me give you a small daily life example. You help a colleague at work. You stay late, you guide them, you support them. Inside your heart, questions. Without saying it out loud, you start hoping. When I need help, they will definitely be there for me. One day you need them, you call. They are busy. They don't show up. Questions. Now ask yourself honestly, did they promise you they would always be there? Or did you write that promise for them in your own mind? This is what I mean by silent contracts. Questions. We make deals with people without ever telling them the terms. I will care for you, so you must understand me. I will stay loyal, so you must never hurt me. I will support you. Questions. So you must always choose me. And when life doesn't follow these invisible rules, we feel betrayed. But the other person never saw the rule book. Questions. Let's look at something very normal from daily life. Think about a bus stop. You go there at a certain time, expecting the bus to arrive in 5 minutes. You stand there, checking your watch. Questions, looking down the road, 5 minutes pass. Then 10, then 15, your frustration grows. But what actually happened? The bus followed its own schedule. You created your own. Questions. The problem was not the bus. The problem was the gap between reality and expectation. Relationships work the same way. People have their own pace, their own struggles, their own limits. Questions. But we often expect them to move according to our emotional timetable. Let me give you another simple example. You send a message to someone you care about. They don't reply immediately. Questions. Your mind starts working overtime. Did I say something wrong? Are they ignoring me? Did they lose interest? But maybe their phone is on silent. Maybe they are in a meeting. Questions. Maybe they are just having a hard day. Reality can have 100 reasons. But expectation only allows one story, and that story usually hurts. This is how silent disappointments are born. Questions. Not with a loud argument, not with a big fight, but with a quiet moment where you feel unseen, unvalued, or unimportant. And the other person has no idea that anything even happened. Questions. Let me tell you something gentle but powerful. Expectations are future focused. Love is present focused. When you are constantly thinking about what someone should do for you tomorrow, questions, you stop appreciating what they are doing for you today. Think about parents and children. A parent might expect their child to always be grateful, respectful, successful. Questions. The child might expect the parent to always be understanding, patient, supportive. Both sides are carrying a list. And when someone misses one item on that list, hurt feelings begin. Questions. But no one ever sat down and said, "This is my list. Can you agree to it?" A life doesn't work on unspoken agreements. Here's another everyday moment. You lend someone a book. In your heart, questions. You expect them to return it in perfect condition. Maybe even say thank you. Maybe even tell you how much they loved it. They return it late. The cover is bent. They just hand it back casually. Questions. You feel a sting inside. But again, ask yourself, did you tell them what this book meant to you? Or did you assume they would feel the same way you do? Most people don't hurt us intentionally. Questions. They hurt us unintentionally by being human. Let me share something practical. When you lower expectations, you don't lower standards. Questions. You simply stop demanding that people behave exactly the way you would. There is a difference. Standards are about what you allow in your life. Expectations are about how you want others to act. Questions. You can choose to walk away from what disrespects you, but you can't control how someone else chooses to show up. Here's a beautiful shift you can try in daily life. Instead of expecting questions, start appreciating. When someone calls you, don't think, "They should call me more," or think, "They took time to call me today." When someone helps you, don't think questions. "They should always do this," or think, "I'm grateful they did this now." Gratitude lives in the present. Expectations live in the future. And the future is always uncertain. Questions. Let me give you one last simple image. Think of holding sand in your hand. If you hold it loosely, it stays. If you squeeze it tightly, it slips through your fingers. People are like that. Questions. The more tightly you hold them with expectations, the more pressure they feel. And pressure doesn't build closeness, it builds distance. But when you give space, understanding, and acceptance, questions, something beautiful happens. They don't feel controlled, they feel comfortable. And comfort is where genuine connection grows. So the next time you feel disappointed by someone, questions, pause and ask yourself one gentle question. Did they fail me or did my expectation fail me? That one question can save relationships. That one question can save peace. Questions. That one question can save you from carrying silent hurts that no one else even knows you're holding. Because when you let go of expectations, you don't lose people. You gain freedom. Questions. Let me begin with a very common scene from daily life. You come home after a long, exhausting day. Work pressure, traffic, responsibilities, expectations, everything has drained you. Questions. You sit down and think, I just need someone to talk to. You call a friend, they don't answer. You message someone you trust, no reply. Suddenly, that tiredness turns into irritation, sadness, questions, even loneliness. Now pause for a second and ask yourself honestly, was the problem really that no one answered the call? Or was the problem that your emotional glass was already empty? Questions. Most of us live life with an empty glass, walking around hoping someone else will keep refilling it for us. A compliment, a message, attention, validation, reassurance. And when it doesn't come, questions, we feel hurt. But here is the truth we are rarely taught. If you don't know how to refill your own emotional glass, no amount of love from others will ever feel enough. Questions. Think about water for a moment. If you are thirsty and someone gives you a bottle, you drink and feel better. Questions. But you don't expect that person to follow you around all day holding the bottle to your mouth. You learn where to find water. You learn when to drink. You learn how much your body needs. Questions. Emotionally, we often do the opposite. We expect one person to become our permanent water source. Let me give you a simple daily life example. Questions. Imagine a child who never learns how to tie their shoes because someone always does it for them. At first, it feels caring, it feels helpful. But one day, when no one is around, questions, the child feels helpless. That helplessness is not love. That helplessness is dependency. When you rely on others to constantly lift your mood, motivate you, calm you down, or make you feel worthy, questions, you slowly forget your own strength. And then, even small emotional delays start hurting deeply. A late reply feels like rejection. A cancelled plan feels like abandonment. Questions. A distracted conversation feels like disrespect, not because the other person did something terrible, but because your emotional glass was already running on empty. Questions. Now let me ask you something very gently. When was the last time you did something just to nourish yourself emotionally without telling anyone about it? Not for Instagram. Not for approval. Questions, not to impress, just for you. Maybe it's a quiet walk, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's listening to music that understands you. Maybe it's sitting silently and letting your thoughts settle. Questions. These small moments are how you refill your emotional glass. But many people avoid them. Why? Because silence forces you to meet yourself. And if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself, questions, that meeting feels uncomfortable. So we distract ourselves with people. We talk, we scroll, we message, we surround ourselves with noise. But distraction is not refilling. It is postponing. Questions. Let me give you another relatable example. Think about your phone battery. You use your phone all day. Messages, calls, apps, videos. By evening, the battery is low. You don't get angry at the phone. Questions. You don't blame the apps, you simply charge it. But emotionally, when our energy is low, we blame people. Questions. They didn't care enough. They didn't understand me. They should have been there. Sometimes, yes, people fail us. But many times we fail to charge ourselves. Questions. Learning to refill your own emotional glass means understanding your emotional needs before expecting others to meet them. It means knowing when you are tired and allowing yourself to rest. Questions. It means knowing when you are overwhelmed and giving yourself permission to pause. It means knowing when you are hurt and offering yourself compassion instead of criticism. Questions. Here's a powerful shift that happens when you start doing this. You stop demanding, you start inviting. You don't say, you must make me feel better, but you say, I feel better. Questions. And I'd love to share this space with you. That changes everything. Because now when someone shows up for you, it feels like a gift, not a necessity. And when someone can't show up, questions, it feels disappointing, not devastating. Let me share another everyday moment. Have you noticed how some people can be alone and still feel calm, while others feel anxious the moment they are alone? Questions. The difference is not loneliness. The difference is self-connection. People who know how to refill their own emotional glass don't panic in solitude. They use that time to recharge, reflect, questions, and realign. They talk to themselves kindly. They don't bully themselves for mistakes. They don't seek constant reassurance. And because of that, their relationships become healthier. Questions. They don't cling. They don't chase. They don't drain others emotionally. They bring fullness into the room. And here is the beautiful irony of life. Questions. When you stop needing others to constantly fill you, people enjoy being around you more. Because no one feels pressured to fix you. No one feels responsible for your happiness. They feel free. Questions. So the next time you feel emotionally empty, before reaching out to someone else, pause. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Expressed. Movement expression. Silence. Kindness. Questions. Give yourself that first, not because people don't matter, but because you matter too. When you learn to refill your own emotional glass, you don't become distant. You become grounded. Questions. You don't become cold. You become strong. And from that strength you can love, connect, and give without losing yourself. Questions. Because the fullest hearts are not the ones that receive the most from others. They are the ones that know how to nourish themselves. Questions. Let me start with a moment that almost everyone has lived. You post a photo, a thought, or an achievement online. Then you wait, you refresh the screen. 1 like, 2 likes, 10 likes. Questions. And with every number that goes up, something inside you feels lighter. Now imagine the opposite. You post something and the response is quiet. No reactions, no comments. Suddenly the same person, questions, the same photo, the same achievement feels smaller. But ask yourself honestly, did you change in those few minutes? Or did the number on the screen change how you saw yourself? Questions. This is how many of us learn confidence today. We borrow it from reactions, applause, approval, and attention. And borrowed confidence is fragile. The moment the crowd goes silent, it disappears. Questions. Let me give you a simple daily life example. Imagine a child learning to ride a bicycle. At first, the parent runs behind them, holding the seat. The child feels brave because someone is there. Questions. The moment the parent lets go, the child wobbles, panics, and sometimes falls. But then something beautiful happens. One day the child realizes, questions, I am riding on my own. That confidence doesn't come from the parent anymore. It comes from the child's own balance. That is what self-connection looks like. Questions. Confidence that comes from inside doesn't need an audience. Now think about how often we look outside ourselves to decide how we feel about who we are. If they praise me, I'm good. Questions. If they criticize me, I'm not enough. If they notice me, I matter. If they ignore me, I disappear. That is an exhausting way to live. Questions. Because you are constantly handing the remote control of your self-worth to someone else. Let me share a very normal, everyday situation. You walk into a room full of people. Some smile at you. Questions. Some don't notice you. Some are busy in their own world. If your confidence depends on their reaction, your emotions will go up and down like a lift all evening. Questions. But if your confidence comes from self-connection, you walk into the same room thinking, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it. And suddenly, the room feels different. Questions. Not because people changed, but because you did. Self-connection means knowing yourself beyond the roles you play. Questions, not just I am a student, not just I am an employee, not just I am someone's child friend or a partner, but I am a person with values, strengths, weaknesses, dreams, questions, and a story. And when you connect with that deeper version of yourself, confidence becomes quiet, not loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to compete. Questions. It doesn't need to impress. Let me give you another simple example. Think about a tree. A tree with deep roots doesn't shake when the wind blows. A tree with shallow roots bends with every breeze. Questions. Validation is like the wind. Some days it's strong. Some days it's absent. But self-connection is the root system. The deeper it goes, the steadier you stand. Now here's a question to reflect on. Questions. When was the last time you made a decision based on what felt right to you, not what would look good to others? The clothes you wear, the career you choose, the path you take, the people you keep. Questions. Many times we live our life like it's a performance. We are on stage and the world is the audience. But a performance never feels safe because you are always one mistake away from being judged. Questions. Self-connection turns life from a performance into a conversation. A real one. Honest, human. Imperfect. Let me share a small daily life moment. Questions. Have you ever tried to explain yourself to someone who already decided not to understand you? You talk. You justify. You defend. You try harder. And still, they don't see you. Questions. That's when you realize something important. Not everyone is meant to be your mirror. Some people will never reflect who you are, no matter how clearly you show yourself. Questions. Self-connection means you stop begging for reflections from broken mirrors. You start becoming your own. It means you can say, I know my intentions. Questions. Even if you misunderstand them. I know my effort, even if you don't see it. I know my worth, even if you don't recognize it. But that doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you grounded. Questions. And here's the beautiful paradox. The less you chase validation, the more naturally it comes. Because people are drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin. Not perfect, not loud. Questions. Just real. Think about someone in your life who feels confident in a calm way. They don't talk the most. They don't show off. They don't try to dominate the room. But when they speak, questions, people listen. Why? Because they are not trying to be someone else. They are connected to who they already are. So the next time you catch yourself looking outside for approval, pause. Questions, ask yourself gently, what do I think about this? Not your friends, not your family, not social media, not the world, you. That question is the beginning of self-connection. Questions. And the more you ask it, the stronger your inner voice becomes. Because real confidence is not built on compliments. It is built on clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you stand for. Questions, what you value, and what you will no longer compromise. When you have that, validation becomes a bonus, not a necessity. Questions. And you walk through life not hoping to be seen, but knowing you are already enough, even when no one is looking.